Just call Matthew Stafford Mr. December. At least that's kind of what his coach is saying here on today's episode of the Rams Digest. We're going to break that down and also break down a game prediction for tonight's game versus the Arizona Cardinals. A very huge matchup for the Rams. Even though the Cardinals are already out the playoffs, they are going to come in hungry, ready to kind of disrupt at least the Rams' plans to make the playoffs. We'll talk about that and much more on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button right now, as 88.5% of you guys still are not subscribed to the channel. You're watching the videos, but you're not subscribed. We appreciate you coming and watching, but why not hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest, but also show us that you want more daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. Let's get into this. Okay, right off the bat, Mr. December for Matthew Stafford. Is that the nickname we're going to give him now? It is an interesting conversation to have because I've kind of said it here on the channel, right? Matthew Stafford has not had the best couple of games in December, at least the last couple of games that he's played. And so why are we calling him Mr. December? Well, let's pull up this story here to talk about what it is we're talking about. As Sports Illustrated says, why Rams Stafford is unstoppable in December. They're not really talking about Matthew Stafford putting up, a bunch of numbers necessarily in the last couple games. What they are really saying is that Matthew Stafford wins. He wins a lot in December. He wins a lot of games in December. And I think the important aspect to note here is that, yeah, quarterback wins and losses, it gets a little complicated, right? It gets a little tricky. I don't think quarterbacks should be given all the credit for wins. I don't think they should get all the hate for the losses. But at the end of the day, Matthew Stafford's been in the NFL for so long. He knows what it takes to win. He knows the games that are most important, right? We're talking about games in December, games that matter most, games that, determine whether or not your team makes a playoff sometimes. And the last few years, Matthew Stafford has been winning games in December for the Rams. And that's ultimately why you're kind of titling him a Mr. December. But the reason why is as a veteran quarterback, he knows what it takes. He understands that, hey, he doesn't have to put up godly numbers in December. He understands that you're playing cold weather games, like, he's playing in Detroit for many years, right? He understands cold weather games. He understands how that goes, how the NFL works. All he has to do is make sure he makes the right plays at the right time, and therefore that's how you'll win some of these big-time games. And, I mean, look at the last few games, right? You're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, 12-6. You're talking about the New York Jets, 19-9. You don't see Matthew Stafford pouting about his numbers, pouting about his stats necessarily. He's just understanding that as long as he gets enough points to win the game, that's all that really matters. And I think that's really the important key for Matthew Stafford and why he's been so successful in December. But let's talk about what Sean McVay had to say about Matthew Stafford, his quarterback. He says, I think he's clutch. The best part about Matthew Stafford is he has all these amazing numbers and all these stats that he has put up, and he's a special quarterback, but he wants to win. I think he understands what it takes, especially in that month when that's such a critical time for you to be able to try to peak at the right time if you're going to get an opportunity to get into the tournament. And I think that's another huge key, right? Stafford's been in the league for a long time. He also understands that as long as you just get in, that's all that really matters, right? Then once you get in, all you got to do is worry about winning 4 games, right? And that's kind of, for the most part, right? That's kind of all you're worried about to try to get a Super Bowl. Now, Stafford's only done it once, so it's not like it's an easy thing to do, just get in and win 4 games. But he understands that once you get in, you have an opportunity. And we've been talking about this with the Rams this season. If you get in, nobody wants to see the Rams. Not many people are excited about a Rams matchup because you have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Kyren Williams and a decent offensive line who's been getting healthy and playing well together. Who a good defense, a young defense. Who they're not necessarily the best, most hardest to score on defense. But the last 4 games they've held teams to under 15 points. At least 3 out of the 4 games, right? Just that Bills game. Aside from that Bills game, the Saints, the Niners, and the Jets, they all scored under 15 points. So I think the defense is playing well at the right time. They're hungry, they're aggressive, they're well coached, right? The coach has them ready to play every single week, and I think that's kind of what makes the Rams a scary team. Look at the Detroit Lions, right? And Amon-Ra St. Brown, not trying to harp on this too much, but he did mention, hey, the Rams are not a team you want to see when it comes down to the playoffs. So get in the tournament. That's all that really matters. And Matthew Stafford understands that. He doesn't have to put up godly numbers. He already has, right? In his whole career, he's put up these incredible numbers, top 10 quarterback numbers in NFL history. Who cares about his statistic at this point in time? He wants to win games and wants to get in the tournament so he has a chance to win another Super Bowl before it's too late with the Los Angeles Rams. So that's kind of where we're at here with Mr. December, Matthew Stafford. Let's talk a little bit about what his receiver, his star receiver, had to say about it. Cooper Kupp, as we'll pull up this quote here. I think that's a nod to the coaches, and this is, he did give his. I want to emphasize, I cut it off here, but he did give his props and praise to Matthew Stafford. But he went on to say, also, I think it's a nod to the coaches, the guys that we've had here, the culture the guys have built here, the process of continuing to grow and continuing to get better, and knowing that the beginning of the season is not who you're going to be at the end. I think we've done a good job continuing to grow as players throughout the course of the season. And that's Cooper Kupp. Again, he was talking about Matthew Stafford, talking about Mr. December, how the Rams have been doing a good job of winning games in December, not just this year, but multiple years over the last few years since they've gotten Matthew Stafford. And that's kind of what Cooper Kupp mentioned. Yes, give Stafford his credit. I think he also mentions him being in Detroit and cold weather games and things of that nature. But he says, coming back to reality here in Los Angeles, give Stafford his credit. He's a beast. But hey, this is also give a nod to the coaches for getting us ready to play in games that matter most. And that's really what I've been preaching here on the channel over and over again. Sean McVay and the rest of the coaching staff doing a good job of getting these guys ready to play, even when it looked like the situation was bleak and it looked like we were maybe done for the year. Trade everybody, that's rebuild. You got your team in a position where they can possibly make the playoffs if they just win out for the rest of the season. And you got to give a nod to the coaching staff as well. Shout out to Cooper Kupp for giving that nod to the coaching staff. So that's kind of where it's at, right? Matthew Stafford, Mr. December, understanding where and when he has to make plays to win games when they matter most. And that's what you love to see out of your star quarterback. Moving on from that, Rams versus Cardinals. Let's talk about a game preview here. As we'll pull up this little screenshot right here. I want to pull this up right away. Rams versus Cardinals prediction odds spread. Obviously getting a story from CBS Sports. A very interesting game. We talked about this after Seattle won on Thursday. This has now become a pretty important game for the Rams. They kind of need to win this game. That was kind of an automatic. And in terms of hoping they can clinch the playoffs this weekend, they were going to have to win this game regardless of what happened on Thursday. Now, if Seattle would have lost somehow, Rams could have clinched the division with this win. But if they do win this game, they can still clinch by the end of this weekend. Now, if they don't win for somehow, some way, again, I just kind of, we'll talk about this when I talk about my prediction, but the game feels a little interesting now, right? All of a sudden, I felt like when Seattle won that game, I started realizing how serious of a situation this kind of could be for the Rams, in the sense of the Arizona Cardinals are going to come in ready to play. They're going to be aggressive. They're not going to lay down. They're not ready for vacation. James Conner has been cleared to play for them. He's a guy who got his contract signed. The season's already over. He should be packing his bags, going on vacation, maybe calling it a season. Instead, he is playing not 100% healthy, trying to come and beat the Rams. This Arizona Cardinals team is coming in hungry. They're upset their season's over. They're frustrated. They're going to come in ready to fight tonight at SoFi Stadium. So I think from the Rams' perspective, you got to be ready for a dogfight. You got to be ready for a really energetic game out of the Arizona Cardinals. And I think it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be a battle, and that's kind of what's getting a little bit scary. Now, the good thing for the Rams is it doesn't mean if you lose this game, your season's over. You just got to go and beat the Seattle Seahawks, and then we're gonna talk about a big kind of tiebreaker situation. But if you beat the Seahawks, it's over. You win that. What's the word, that that battle, right? The battle with the division battle with the Seahawks. So you just beat them, season's over, right? The season's already over and you are in the playoffs. So that's the good news for the Rams. But the scary situation is, again, you're going to a game versus the Arizona Cardinals. You still want to win this game, so maybe there's still a chance you can clinch by Tuesday morning if certain games fall a certain way. We've talked about this last couple episodes. If you missed them, go back and watch them. But we'll see what happens, right? We'll pull up these detailed numbers here. Rams versus Cardinals. We'll give some spread numbers, some Vegas numbers, if you will. Rams are minus 6.5, so they're 6.5 point favorites, right, over the Arizona Cardinals. That definitely scares me a little bit that they're that much of a favorite. I think Vegas and in general, people who make these odds are really talking about, they think the Arizona Cardinals are going to lay down and be ready to move on. The over-under for this game is 47.5. I think it's a little high. I think it's going to be a bit of a lower scoring game. I don't know, actually. Maybe they're right. It might be like a 24, 20, 28 kind of game. Rams versus Cardinals money line. If you bet on the Rams, you're going to be minus 308. If you bet on the Cardinals, you're plus 246. So Interesting conversation to have about these predictions. These numbers do interest me a little bit because again, it's telling you that they're expecting the Rams to take care of business pretty easily. But I think we're underrating and not really expecting a fight from the Cardinals. And it's just not what I expect when we're talking about a division rivalry game, a team that's frustrated and upset they're not make the playoffs. I think you're going to get a better fight than that from the Arizona Cardinals. And we'll pull up some other numbers here, as you can see. Rams versus the Cardinals here, and we'll talk about their key stats here. Total offense, Rams per game, 15th in the NFL on total offense, 13th in the NFL in terms of passing offense, and 19th in the NFL in rushing offense. You oppose that to the Cardinals defense. Cardinals defense 20th in the NFL in terms of yards per game. They're also 15th in the NFL in passing yards and 22nd in the NFL in rushing defense. So, good thing is, it looks like the Rams might be able to run a little bit tonight versus the Arizona Cardinals. Should be a good Kyren Williams game, right? When we're talking about that situation here. Sorry, I keep pulling the wrong screenshots. Should be a good Kyren Williams game and not too tough of a battle for the offensive movement in general. The receiving room should Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua should have decent games. This is a decent defense now, a decent passing defense. They are in the top half of the NFL, but they are not, top 10, top 5 defense like we talked about versus the Jets, where we did expect kind of a rough game from the offensive production side of things, receiver-wise, and we did kind of get that. But you see, if the run game kind of open up a little bit, I think the passing game can open up as well. A decent amount, a little bit more than what you would expect out of the cold weather Jets game here at SoFi Stadium, indoor facility. The Rams should be able to move the ball a little bit better than they did versus the Jets. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here, but you do have to pay attention to the Cardinals offense. Cardinals offense versus the Rams defense, right? Total offense for the Cardinals, 11th in the NFL. They are a top 12 offensive team in terms of yards per game versus the defense for the Rams is bottom half of the league, 24th in the NFL in terms of total defense. Passing defense for the Rams, 19th, and rushing defense, 25th in the NFL. We've been talking about this. I don't want to hate on the Rams defense, but they have been overperforming, and the numbers are showing that even when they're overperforming, we've seen them look pretty good at times, even with their performances, right? Overperforming ness, I don't know what you want to call it, what word you would use, but even with them overperforming, they're still in the bottom half of the league in certain stats, so that's definitely not something you want to see. And versus the Cardinals offense, right? Their passing offense is top 20 in the NFL, not too great, but their rushing offense, the James Conner-led rushing offense is 5th in the NFL, right? And versus the Rams rushing defense being 25th in the NFL. So the Rams are going to have to stop the run this game. They're going to have to slow down James Conner if they want to win, and they're also going to have to run the ball with Kyren Williams. I'm expecting a James Conner versus Kyren Williams kind of type of game, but in terms of the passing offense, if Puka Nacua can do what he has to do, Tyler Higbee can get involved, and Cooper Kupp can actually get involved as well, the Rams should do a good job of winning this game. Not really too concerned about them losing this game. I just think they're in for a battle bigger than they really kind of are expecting. So let's give my prediction, right? Let's go ahead and give my final game prediction for this game. Rams, Cardinals tonight. I'm looking at this game saying that I'm expecting the defenses to battle it out a little bit. A physical game in the first half, lowish going game, maybe like a 14-10 type of game at the first half. But I think it's going to pick up in the second half, and I think we actually are going to get a decent battle offensively. I'm going to go ahead and call it a 27-24 victory for the Rams. They do not cover the spread in my prediction, but 27-24 kind of gets a little bit crazy at the end, especially in the fourth quarter, a little back and forth here and there. 27-24 is my final Rams prediction. You guys give me your Rams prediction down below in the comments, and we'll see who is closest to being correct. Are you guys nervous? Let me know how you guys feel. Talk to me in the comments for sure down below. That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. Don't forget, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe right now before you leave. That's going to do it for me. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I'm out.